Hi, so today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. Feeling a little constrained with just having the one tripod and to mount the camera on, and I want some extra lighting in that, and I was looking at some lights and they mount onto tripods, and I don't have room to fit any more tripods down here, and lighting can get quite expensive, so I'm going to make my own mount that'll accept either my own homemade lights, or I can put the camera on, either one, so I can eliminate the tripod, altogether, or I could put the lights on my tripod. So I'm just going to use this fairly crappy, bar clamp here. Cheap little bracket, corner bracket from the dollar store, number 6 screw, 1/4 inch screw with an extra, with 2 nuts instead of 1, and a tap and a drill bit. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is, in the little retention clip here on the end of the bar clamp, the hole just happens to be the right size that I can tap it and get a number 6 screw in there. So I'm just tapping that 632. Now it just happens to be that that's what these Skil clamps have. Different brands may or may not have that already. But if you don't have a suitable hole, I mean, just drill one. Not a big deal. So I want to tap that because I want to put the screw in there and tighten it up against it. So if it was too big of a hole that you have there and you don't feel like tapping, or you can't tap it, you'll need to use some extra nuts in there. You'll want to put a lock nut on the thing. So that's it, this little guy right there. So as you see now, the clip is, or the pin was driven flush on one side and protrudes on the other. I don't know if that, there we go, get it to show up. So I'm going to take my screw now, and I want to put it through on the side that it's sticking out. Tighten it right up. Now, I mean, I don't want to go too tight because I don't want to strip it, but just before it gets to the point where I feel like I'm going to start to strip or shear the screw, I'm going to stop. So that's in there now, locked in there nice and tight. You could put some Loctite, or I don't know, maybe super glue might work, or crazy glue, I'm not really sure. But that's it. So now we've got the screw protruding through the on the side here where it's flush, that pin. Next thing is to get this little corner bracket here ready. Now these are, I believe, 2-inch. These are 2-inch corner brackets that I just picked up at the dollar store. I think they came in a 4-pack. So I'm just going to find a scrap of wood to put that on. And I'm just going to drill one of the holes here on the end. It doesn't matter which side you use, but I'm just going to drill one of these out to 1/4 inch. Okay, I'm not even bothered with the countersink on that one. It came a little bit close to the edge. So now I'll just take this, this 1/4 20 nut, and just going to stick it up like that through the bracket. Take one of the nuts, slap that on there, and I'm just going to go grab a pair of wrenches and tighten that up as tight as I can. That's it. Now this other nut I'm just going to spin on here by hand. Doesn't get cranked down all the way. In fact, I'm just going to leave a gap because I don't want it to tighten up. Last step is just to take the bracket, pop it over there, tighten that guy up a bit, and that's it. Pretty much done. Alright, now I can just bring this up to on the edge of my bench and clamp it on. And now to demonstrate the top, I'll use this little cell phone holder tripod adapter here. So what I do with that is I just crank it on a couple times. This other nut I just bring around and oops, get my wrench adjusted, back it off. Now you could use wing nuts, and I don't have any. I plan on replacing this with a wing nut too. And you know, you just set your angle. Boom, there you go, done. And of course this can swivel back and forth until you tighten that up, or you can also just tip the whole clamp slightly. So, you know, I can just bring that down whatever angle if I want to shoot down. There, same thing. Could replace that with a panel light, which I'm going to make next. Okay, so for the light, all I need is a roll of these this LED tape, a file, and I'm using a chunk of a Luma panel, which is just two thin layers of aluminum sandwiching a layer of plastic. So I'm just going to take the my file and just clean up these edges a little bit. Alright, so now I've cleaned it up, and I peeled the protective film off of both sides just because it was dirty, and I didn't want to get my bench dirty from the back side, but really you only need to peel one side. Now with this stuff, as you can see here, ooh, nice reflection from the already completed light. There's a glossy side here, and then there's more of a matte side, and just feeling them, this glossy side is very slick and smooth, so I'm a little concerned with how well the tape will stick from the LED lights, you know, compared to this side. So I'm going to use the matte side to stick my LEDs on. So I'm just going to take the tape, and this stuff can be cut every 3 LEDs. Now if I measure out, see there's my cut point, so I've got 4 sections, so 12 LEDs. So I'm going to cut it into, cut a whole bunch of strips of 12 LEDs long. I'm just going to cut about a dozen, but I think I need 13, 15, something like that. I know it came to an odd number. So I'm going to start cutting them up. Alright, so I remeasured, and it turned out it was 19 pieces that I need, so I've got them all cut here. Now what I'm going to do is just take these, and I'm going to pick a side to start at. So I'm going to start up in the top corner here, and I'm just going to peel the paper. Okay, so for mine I've got writing on there, which makes it easy to orient them, but it looks a little bit better if you orient them all the same way. So I'm going to put that pretty much to the edge. I've got a bit of extra height, so I'm going to start this one a hair down from the top instead of right at the edge, but I mean, do whatever. And then I'm just going to line that up, keep peeling it, and sticking it down. Now if you wanted to, you could center these strips, but I like to start at the edge like that, and then you know, I've run a little short here, but that's fine, because now the next one I'm going to start peeling it on the opposite end of the tape, so on the right side. Still orient it the same way, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to line that up so that I'm on the right edge, and I'm going to put the tape so it's right touching the last strip. I want them to all be nice and tight together, so just going to slowly work that in there. Alright, so now my gap's on this end, and as I see, that sort of staggers the LEDs a bit. I wish this had already been, it was a scrap piece that was pre-cut. I wish it had been just a smidgen longer, so I could get the offset here a little bit more, you know, with this LED being, you know, in between the others. But it's still a bit of an offset, which I kind of like, so I'm just going to keep zigzagging back and forth. Now I've got all the LEDs on here. All that's left is to wire them up and put a mount on this thing. So for wiring, what I do is I take the positive on the left side here. I just take a wire and I daisy chain it together, zigzag back and forth, and hit all the positive terminals on this side from both the rows that are right to the edge, as well as the inset rows. And then, I'll start up here. I'll work my way down and leave my a tail coming off of there, the extra wire to run around and hook up to the power. And I'll hook all the negatives up at this end, but what I'll do is I'll do the opposite. I'll start down here and I'll zigzag all the way up and then leave the excess off of this top corner to wrap around. So here's the panel that I've already done. I don't feel like soldering the other one up today, but you can see what I've done here with the zigzagging it. Now the reason for this is just to try and get a little bit more even lighting through the panel by having your positive and negative connections on opposite sides. Then you're going to have the same amount of trace running, to this LED as you do to this one over here. You got a short amount on the positive side and a long amount on the negative. Well, I guess I shouldn't say to that one because they're in groups of 3, but this group here and this group, they still got to run through the same amount of trace. And by going, running the one connection wire off the bottom and one off the top, same thing, my connection leads now. So just to try and even out things like, the resistance, line resistance there. Now for a mount, what I did is on this side here, I just measured to the center point of this on what I decided was going to be the bottom. And because it's really glossy and I was worried about the epoxy sticking, I just took my knife and I just went and, scored the surface. I made a whole bunch of little cuts right where that nut was going to go. I just mixed up a 2-part epoxy and put this little acorn nut onto there, and it's a 1/4 inch nut, so that way it'll fit on the mount that I made, as well as 1/4 inch is also the same size that's on a tripod. Even though the threading is slightly different, it's still 1/4 inch by 20 threads per inch, so it will it'll fit in there and you can get a decent fit. And so here it is mounted on my commercial tripod, just to show it goes on there. There's a bit of flex in it because it's just a cheap tripod mount, but there's some flex in the material, but I mean it's on there nice and stable, ready to go. Alright, and here I got the whole thing. There's a clamp on my lower bench coming up, and I've got the LED light up there. I haven't put a connector on the leads yet. I just have them clipped onto a couple leads off one of my bench supplies down there. So yeah, I mean, I'll flick it on and it is nice and bright. That's, gives me a nice bright area here for shooting video or for working on. So there's a few improvements to be made, but I'll cover that another day. Alright, now a couple of things that I'm going to cover in a future video once I decide exactly what I'm doing. I want to make diffuser covers for these. The other thing is I want to make them dimmable, but because I'm using them for lighting here for video, I'm not going to go with PWM because you don't want the strobing light. So instead, for video use, what I'm going to do is go with voltage-based dimming. I did not use the waterproof strings. Once I've got all the wires hooked up on this, what I'm going to do is just take some spray lacquer and I'm going to spray the front. Just give it a little bit of protection. I don't plan on using these in wet location. And the other thing to note is that with the Illuma panel here, there is that layer of plastic, so it's not as good as using a solid sheet of aluminum. That's it for this video. Till next time.